and welcome to the Light and Energy Show with me, Claire Wiles, on the Light and Energy channel. Today we're really pleased to have with us Nick Ashron. Welcome, Nick, to the show.
Thank you, Claire. I'm very pleased to be here.
Thank you. Nick is a psychic artist, musician, author and TV presenter. Nick, is there no end to your talents? That's an amazing array of talents. Can I ask you, first of all, how did it all begin for you?
Well, okay. I'll tell you how it all began. Actually began when I was 8, believe it or not.
Right, gosh, very young age.
Well, see, generally at that age, I used to spend all my time just climbing trees. I just loved being out in nature, sitting in trees.
Yeah.
School time, well, the only subjects I really enjoyed in school was art. And then in my spare time, I was always into music.
Right.
Generally at school, I'd just be gazing out the window, longing to be in the trees. And my reports used to say things like, Nick would do really well if he wasn't such a daydreamer. I feel inclined to go back to those teachers and say, I wasn't a daydreamer, I was a visionary.
Exactly, and that sounds much better, doesn't it? Yeah.
So anyway, but on this one occasion, my attention was drawn into the classroom when they started talking about this man that went round healing people.
Right.
Who was filled with such love and compassion.
Yes.
And of course I'm talking about Jesus.
Yes.
But this is the first time I'd heard of this person, right? And it had the most extraordinary and profound impact on me, to the extent that something inside of me went, that's what I want to do.
That's quite a career choice, isn't it?
Well, it had such a profound effect that that's just how it made me feel. I want to be a healer like this man. Now, of course, sadly, the reality, as it subsequently unfolded, of that caused me quite a bit of consternation. Right. Because I'd heard about this individual from the church, so I started going to the church. And I got involved with the Boy Scouts, I got involved with the choir, my mum got involved with the choir, and I enjoyed that. But in general, I didn't really like the atmosphere in the church. And as time went on, I'm thinking, where are the people doing healing? Okay, because bearing in mind, they were all kind of expounding the virtues of this individual and his teachings. Yeah. And yet I could see no one actually doing any of this work. At the age of 10, because my dad was a commercial airline pilot, we went to live abroad and we lived in India for a year. Now, bearing in mind I'm only 10, I'd never seen beggars in the street. I'd never seen such poverty. And all that did was further even more and fuel my desire. I was thinking, oh, I wish I could go and heal these people.
Yes. Yeah.
Then came back to England. And when I got to the age of about 12, I actually went up to some of the priests or the reverends and I used to say, where are the people doing healing?
That was a difficult question for them to answer
then. I didn't think it was, but they did. Their response was, only Jesus can heal. And I said, well, that's very puzzling because in your Bible you quote Jesus as saying, what I do, you can do and much more. They didn't like that.
No, I don't expect they did.
Brushed me off. Go away. Only Jesus can heal. Now, the thing is, that wasn't a satisfactory answer to me. That was just like... And then we went abroad again, and basically for the remainder of my teenage years until I was nearly 20, we lived in different countries. And all those countries were either some sort of priest-run religious schooling. So by the time I got to the age of 19, 20, I didn't want anything to do with conventional religion. But I still had this desire. I felt that I had something I had to do here. Yes. But now I didn't know. And the healing was the thing that really, really pulled me. Anyway, I had to wait about another year when I was 21. I went to art college because, you know, I was into art. One day I got home and my mum said to me, what are you doing tomorrow night? And I said, well, I'm not really doing anything. Why? And she said, oh, well, my friends invited me to a spiritualist church. Oh, interesting. And I wonder if you would come for moral support. Now, in my mind, you know, spiritualist church, well, the word church for a start was like, ugh. And then spiritualist, where I didn't really know much about spiritualism other than what I've seen in maybe the odd movie or whatever. So I had this vision of like people in a dark room all holding hands, you know what I mean?
And a Ouija board in the middle.
Exactly, and a church. And I was like, oh my God, what is this? Suffice to say, though, that actually I was pleasantly surprised. It wasn't anything like what I'd anticipated. I was, however, you know, a bit reserved about it all. But the good thing was there was no priest. Welcomed by very, very lovely people. And then we all went into this room. I did notice an altar and a picture of Jesus on the wall, and I was a little bit, you know, but we'll see what happens. And then they talked about having a visiting medium who was going to go around and give people messages, and that intrigued me.
Because you'd not come across that before,
No. I did observe their creed outside their mission statement, and they were saying things like they acknowledge life after death, communication with spirit, loved ones, ascended masters, angels, and so on. They also talked about taking responsibility for your actions, the law of cause and effect. And I kind of thought, well, that...
So this was your first experience of that type of thing. I thought,
well, I can, you know, they don't particularly... and then at the bottom said, this is not a religion. The principles of spiritualism can be applied to any religion and will enhance it. So I went, okay. But during the course, before the medium came to giving people messages, they sung a few hymns, which was, okay. But they explained the reason they do that is to create a protective atmosphere in the room. Okay, fair enough. And then they said, now, we would just like you all to close your eyes. We're going to have a healing moment. And we'd like you to send out healing to those loved ones or people that you know need some healing. They said, we also have a healing list, so if there's any names you want to put on there. And then they said, and of course we have our resident healers, if you'd like personal healing treatment. And
Wonderful.
I'm going, I've actually, here are people actually doing healing.
Yeah, I bet you couldn't believe it.
I couldn't. And cut a long story short, after overcoming my initial kind of, because I came away with this incredible feeling of really excited, but also a little bit kind of nervous about it all. But because they had a library, I ended up going back, scoring their library and amazing subjects, talking about nature, spirit kingdoms and angelic beings and life after death. But the main thing that I went back was to talk to the healers. And subsequently I developed my own healing ability. So I started out as a healer. Once I understood further how the healing process works, I suddenly realized that music would be a powerful medium to transmit healing energies. So I started combining music and healing. Now, at this point in my kind of life, I was already contemplating that I'd really like to do music. Although I love the art, all my spare time was doing music. And I taught myself to play the guitar, and then by the time I was 18, I was writing my own songs. And I was basically looking at going down the purely commercial road, but suddenly this had come into the picture, and I was suddenly faced with this crossroads. Do I go down that road, or do I combine the music and the healing and go down that road?
Which was quite a new road, wasn't it?
It was, and I knew it was probably going to be the hardest road. Didn't know quite how hard it was going to be. But nevertheless, it was almost like I had to make that choice. And I wrote my very first piece of healing music, which is actually on this CD here, the River Song Suite, which is a series of acoustic instrumental pieces. I used to take my guitar, sit down by the river.
Did you? How lovely.
Create these little pieces of music.
Yeah, with nature around you to inspire you. Couldn't be better.
Exactly. And the first piece of healing music I wrote was called The Healing Waters. And this was in 1975. There wasn't even the term New Age music at that time.
No, there wasn't, no.
I was inspired by the whole concept of the New Age movement that I'd heard about growing in the States. So I actually thought I'd call my music New Age music. Gradually, the awareness of New Age music from the States got picked up by a few labels over here, and little trickles of that started to come over here. But I was already out going to mind, body, spirit fairs, promoting music for healing, and was subsequently one of the early pioneers of spiritual New Age music here in the UK. Subsequently got to know other musicians, and we formed an association, a New Age Music Association, to kind of help and support each other. But as you can imagine, making a living as a musician is hard enough anyway, let alone attempting to make a living as in music doing healing in an area that's still relatively unknown.
Yes, it's been terribly difficult.
It was, and actually I just got more and more in debt.
That's very honest of you, Nick.
Well, I was funding all my own projects. I was funding, you know, and recording time and all that. At the time I had a house, and I kept borrowing money on the house because I was really, really convinced it was going to be successful.
Yes.
But then I hit a crunch point. And, you know, it was a bit of a blow because I've really done everything I could to make this successful. So one day I sat down and I kind of put this request to Spirit, or if you like, I put an intent out to Spirit that I needed to find another source of income that would support me doing the music. But I said it needs to be in line with my spiritual pathway. In other words, not just anything.
No, it's got to be the right thing at the right time.
Something still in line with my spiritual pathway, and using whatever gifts you know I have. And then I forgot about that, and I kind of just made this request.
Yeah.
And at the time I was going round mind, body, spirit fairs, but just doing music. And then not long after I'd made this request, mediums and psychics suddenly started coming up to me and saying, "You could be a psychic artist, Nick." I was like, what? And I'd never considered myself to be psychic. I mean, I knew I had a healing gift.
Yes.
And the girlfriend I was living with at the time was incredibly psychic, so that's what I thought was psychic.
Yes.
Now, if this had only happened once, I would have dismissed it. But it kept happening.
So somebody was trying to tell you something somewhere.
Different fairs, different events, different parts of the country, different mediums and psychics coming up to me saying, "You could be a psychic artist." I was like,
that's a strong message, isn't it, to be telling you?
Without going into the whole detail, the whole details of that and the other amazing sort of interventions of Spirit are in my book that I've got there, By the Light of the Star, which tells the story in detail. But eventually I managed to find out how Spirit were going to channel through me. And subsequently I started to do the Spirit artwork. Now initially it wasn't Spirit guides that I did, it was just visual images. Inspired visual images. And then a close friend of mine who was also very talented as a channel, he's the one that suggested that I could probably draw people's guides. Excuse me. And then suddenly it was like, once I'd made that, if you like, okay, I'll give it a go. Doors just opened. It was just amazing. Doors just opened, left, right and centre. And suddenly I was in demand as a psychic artist. Now when I first started, I didn't actually get any information about the guides. I didn't even know I was even drawing anyone's guide. I just drew a face.
And these were things that just came to you intuitively.
Anyway, eventually I found a way of developing my ability to channel pictures, which wasn't initially spirit guides, it was just visual images, inspired visual images.
That you saw intuitively?
Well,
people,
I didn't actually see them. Spirit just drew through me, if you like. That's the easiest way I can explain it. Which is not dissimilar to the way I work with music, because I don't read or write music. If I was to create a piece of music, I'd sit with either a keyboard or the guitar and I'd just
And allow it to come
play
to
around
you.
until, oh, that sounds really nice. And then I would develop it. So I've always felt that that's, you know, spirit guiding me. So in the same way, drawing, I just allow whatever to unfold without any preconceived idea of what I'm drawing.
Yes.
And then these images, if you like, these pictures would kind of unfold in front of me. It was
How
quite
amazing.
awesome. And then eventually, through a close friend of mine who channels, a dear friend of mine who was a bit down on his luck, I let him stay with me for a little while to get himself back on his feet. And during the time that he was staying with me, he brought this channeling through, and also a way of how to channel spirit guides. Now, I didn't actually see spirit, I didn't hear spirit, but I thought, well, I can draw, and I know how to draw faces. So I just basically drew a face. No idea who I was drawing.
Just what you felt.
Just, I mean, to be honest with you, it felt like I just made the face up, right? But bearing in mind at the time that this was happening, there was no thought at all in my mind this was ever going to be an occupation. I'd totally forgotten about the request I made.
Right, yes.
This was just something, that I see if I could do.
Yes, yeah.
And because of that, my friends were very supportive, and so, you know, I'd start with friends, oh, well, see if I draw you a guide, you know, and I'd draw them a face. None of my friends turned around saying, oh, I know who this is. But they were very supportive. A few of them used to come back to me and say, oh, it's really interesting. I was looking at the face and it triggered interesting ideas and thoughts. One person, it took them back to their childhood, and I thought, well, that's interesting.
Yes, very,
Picture's obviously doing something.
Yeah.
And then one day, I actually met someone that did recognise one of the pictures that I drew.
That must have been a very special moment.
Well, it was, because I was at a fair and there was a girl on the stall next to mine. At the time, I was looking for a singer for a band that I had. I always had bands, right? And she said she could sing, so I got together with her to do an audition. And while she was out making a cup of tea, I did this quick drawing. And when she came back, I said to her, I said, look, I've drawn this. I'm developing my ability as a psychic artist. I'm drawing people's guides. I've drawn this picture for you. Will you accept it? And she said, yeah, sure. So I handed it to her, and she looked at it, and she goes, oh, Eagle Hawk, I wonder what he wants. I'm still waiting for Thor to show himself. He never comes through. And I'm like, what? You know who this is? She goes, oh, yeah, that's my guide, Eagle Hawk. I see him all the time. And I'm like, huh? And she goes, oh, I am a psychic. You know, I didn't know that about her, you see. Just thought she was a singer. But she explained that she's a psychic. She works on the psychic phone lines, sees her guides, and this was a guide that she used to see, or sees regularly.
Yeah.
And this was the first time that someone actually confirmed that I was actually drawing, you know, drawing a guide, and obviously that blew me away.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. It must have been quite an exciting moment, actually.
It was. And then a couple of weeks later, I met a medium in a shop that I got chatting to when I was promoting some music in the shop. And I happened to mention to her that I'm doing the spirit guide work, and she was straight on the case. She said, oh, I want you to draw 3 spirit guide portraits for me. She said, and I'll pay you. And my response was, yeah, sure, I'll draw you 3 pictures, but you can't pay me. And she goes, why? I said, well, because I can't tell you anything about them. I don't get any information. She goes, I'm a medium. You know, I'll know who they are. And you're still taking your time out to draw them. I'm paying you. Okay.
How lovely.
She was actually the catalyst for this becoming an occupation for me, because she was over the moon about the pictures that I drew.
And did she recognise who they were straight away?
She found out who the guides were, told a friend of hers that ran a New Age shop in Dorking, I'm being invited to go in the shop and do it several days of the week. Now, I was a little bit disturbed, because I rang up this friend and I said, look, a friend of yours has invited me into the shop to do this in the shop. I said, I can't do that. She said, I can't say to people, you know, oh yeah, I draw your guide, but I don't know who they are. I said, I'm going to look a right wally, aren't I? And she said, Nick, don't let this stop you doing this. She said, the fact you don't get any information now, you will eventually get information. So just say to people, you can draw their guide and they will find out who they are. Okay. It was a bit of a leap of faith for me, but that's what I did. And you know, sure enough, like a week later, various people come back to me and go, oh, I found out who that guide is. Like one lady said she was dusting her mantelpiece, knocked off this photograph, and when she went to pick it up and put it back, it was an old black and white photograph of her mum's sister, but obviously when she was younger, but is now in spirit. And she looked at the picture and goes, oh my God, that's the picture that Nick drew me.
She realised who it was straight away.
So it was extraordinary, the stories that came back, you know, regarding you know, who the guide was. Through a series of synchronicities, which again are in the book, my book there, like I said, doors just opened left, right and centre. And the Spiritualist Association in Belgrave Square, London, got to hear of me. The next thing I know, I'm being invited up there to go up on the platform with a medium. Right? And I just sit there, draw a face, hand it to the medium. She would do the connection with the person and give them the reading while I'm doing another one, handing it, and I'm doing it. And I was just blown away that like I'm drawing a face, had no idea who they were, but she's and linking them and connecting them with people, and it was just awesome. And gradually, the demand for what I was doing got bigger, and I started going around the mind, body, spirit fairs. And then suddenly, quite a way down the line, I suddenly thought, hang on, this was the answer to my request. When I sat down, I said,
you just remembered,
I needed to find another source of income to help me doing, well, the idea was to support me doing the music. But in actual fact, 15 years down the line from doing that, it actually totally took over my life, the spirit guide work.
It's amazing the synchronicity that happens to point you in the right direction sometimes,
this is the
isn't
thing,
it?
But the funny thing was that, you know, 2008, beginning of 2008, I sat down, I thought, now hang on you lot. When I made that request, it was to support me doing the music. But actually what's happened, the music's got pushed further and further in the background.
Because you're so busy drawing.
And the spirit guide work has completely taken over my life. So I want to start bringing the music forward now, okay? Because that was the whole idea. Because that was the one thing all I really wanted to be doing, actually. Doing the music and the healing. Again, strange, the power of intention, something I talk about in my workshops. The year carried on. There was I was actually very honoured to be presented with an award because someone held this Spiritual Connections Awards for various different categories, you know, most popular healer, most popular medium, and so on and so on. And they had a psychic artist category. So I thought, oh well, you know, I might as well get nominated. Didn't anticipate winning at all, but apparently I got voted, which was really nice. And then in November of that year, I got a phone call out the blue from a friend of mine who knew this guy called Philip Gardner, who I had met. I didn't know him that well, but I had met him, who had his own TV show on one of the Sky channels. And he was asking whether I'd like to go on the show. He'd like to interview me, but he wants to talk about music and healing. He wasn't so interested in the spirit and psychic art. He just was more interested in the music and the healing. Well, for me, this was great. I get a chance to talk about music and healing.
Going back to your beginnings again.
Exactly. So I went on the show. I did the interview, and at the end of the interview, I was blown away because the producers came up and asked me if I wanted my own show.
How amazing. So everything just linking in as it should.
Well, the thing was that he asked me if I'd play a piece of music, on the show. So I took my acoustic guitar and I played a little instrumental piece from the River Song Suite. And when the producer suggesting to me, you know, about having my own show, she said that, you know, it's entirely up to me what theme, you know, I wanted, and I'd be responsible for organising the guests. It would be like a chat show. And because most of the shows on the channel lent towards the conspiracy theory stuff, which I'm totally aware of, but if you're not careful, that just can generate more fear in people. And I'd rather, and the whole nature of my work is about empowering people, helping them to move out of fear. So I thought I'd like to do a show about spirituality and light workers.
And something positive.
Yeah. And showing that there are all these people from all different walks of life that are doing this incredible work. Because I explained that a light worker is any person that feels compelled to want to make a positive difference in the world out of their love and compassion.
Yes.
So that's what a light worker is.
And you're part of the Lightworkers Association, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
And after playing around with some names, I jokingly came up with Lightworkers Guide to the Galaxy.
I love that name. I think it's a fantastic
Because,
name.
you know, like Hitchhiker's
Yes,
Guide
of
to the Galaxy.
course, yeah.
It was just a list of things, of possible names, because they said, come up with a name for the show.
Something people will instantly be
Well,
drawn
the thing was,
to.
I just put it there just really for a laugh, right? But when I was running through the list of names to various, getting feedback from people, they all loved that one. And I went, oh, okay. So it became a Lightworker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yes.
And at the beginning of the show, I explain what a light worker is, but I also explain what the term spirituality means, because a lot of people use the term spiritual and don't really fully comprehend. They might have bits of the story. Now, for me personally, spirituality is based on one simple principle.
And can you share that with
We're
us?
all one.
All connected.
We're all connected, right? It's only an illusion that we're separate.
Yes.
Now, the interesting thing is I've always kept an eye on what comes out the scientific camp.
Yes.
And as you know, once quantum physics came into the picture,
everything started to be
many
turned on
of
its
the
head.
ancient esoteric understandings about the nature of the universe, they finally evidence
Yes. Yeah.
of. Now, they refer to this concept that we are all one as the holographic universe. The principle of that is based on the simple understanding that even the minutest, tiniest little particle contains everything in existence. And it is one with it.
It's very mind-blowing concepts, aren't they?
Well, it is, because we as a singular unit of being contain all of existence. We are one with it. The implications of that means how powerful then are we really? Because by whatever energy we choose to emanate affects
everybody, that ripple effect.
That is.
Yeah.
That's how powerful we really are. And this is why, whilst I'm totally aware of all the dark conspiracies and things going on like that, I continually say to people, yes, I know this is going on, I know this is going on, I know that's going on, but we can make the difference. Because we are powerful creators in our own right.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, humanity has been deliberately kept in a state of fear and disempowerment. And that's been going on for actually thousands of years.
Time immemorial, really.
Humanity's been continually programmed, if you like, or conditioned to be in fear and to feel disempowered.
Yes.
To the extent that most human beings don't feel good about themselves. They're disempowered.
Because it suits the powers that be.
Well, that's how you control and manipulate the masses.
Yeah.
We're never told that we are powerful creators in our own right and encouraged, you know, to make the best of the fact that we are a creator in our own right. But the fact is we are incredibly powerful beings. If we are one with all that is, we are one with whatever you conceive of as the divine source, divine creator, whatever name you wish to give that. We are one with it. That means we have all the creative powers of that source.
Yes.
It means we are one with all the angelic beings. We are one with all these highly evolved masters. We're not less than.
No, we're equal to.
We're one with.
Yes.
And that, just pondering the implications of that can only lead the individual to go, right, I can make a difference. And by their own example, they can affect change.
Yes.
And this is happening. And it's been happening for quite a while, as you know. In fact, from the 60s, that wave of the whole idea of love and peace actually did have a major effect on society.
Yes.
Many people then were inspired to look into many different spiritual traditions and healing processes. And out of that movement, the New Age movement was born. And then the whole idea of the Age of Aquarius. Right? And more, as time has gone on, people are waking up and choosing a spiritually based kind of existence, or rather an existence based on spiritual principles.
We're seeing so much more of it now than we did, say, 20 years ago, aren't we?
It's become mainstream. In many of these subjects have become mainstream now. They're not in the realm of, ooh, bit weird.
No, no. When I was a child and used to read Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World, I was thought of as quite odd. Now it's in open discussion.
Exactly, exactly. Most women's magazines will carry an article about Reiki healing or communication with angels or, you know, spirit kind of intervention or, you know, seeing ghosts or whatever. And it is mainstream now. Now, when I first went to my very first Mind, Body, Spirit fair, which was about 1974, and then the subsequent years after that, you could say that there was a certain kind of person that would go to those fairs. You know, it wouldn't be the normal general public.
Yes.
There'd be people that were slightly alternative or a bit hippie, right? But as the years have gone by, and particularly over the last 5 to 10 years, you can't say that anymore.
No, no, you can't, no.
It's the whole cross-section of the normal general public are going to Mind, Body, Spirit fairs, wanting to discover and develop their own personal,
absolutely,
either psychic gift or healing gift. I mean, in the course of doing spirit guides now for so long, the amount of housewives that get together regularly and have their own little support group for developing their particular healing gift or channeling gift, plus they sit together and they give out healing to the planet. And this is all over the country. More and more people choosing to do this, and the whole thing is accelerating.
It is, at quite a speed, I think, over the past few years.
My understanding is this is what is being indicated, this is what has been prophesized, if you like, in the Mayan calendar.
I was going to ask you about 2012 and your visions for 2012.
And the Hopi-Indian prophecies that are outlining a process of humanity going through a major awakening. And as more and more people choose this reality, it will become this reality. Now, just to clarify that, many times we'll get messages from Spirit saying that this dimension that we exist in is an illusion. Okay? It's only an illusion in the extent that we are creating it through mass consensus, in other words, mass agreement.
Yes.
Are you with me?
Yes.
So whatever the mass consensus is, reality will appear to be. Now, if mass consensus changes,
the
what's
reality
going to happen
changes.
to reality? And the thing is, we only need to actually look back to the 1950s. People in the 1950s would have viewed the things that we take for granted today and the way we live today as pure science fiction, wouldn't they?
Absolutely.
I mean, how many people would have seriously believed when they went to see the movie Frankenstein that we could ever develop a technology where we could recreate another human being, they'd have thought, no, way out. Yet today we have genetic engineering, lasers, microchip technology, nanotechnology, mobile phones, all things which they would have thought was total science fiction.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as a little girl, you know, you'd watch Thunderbirds and they'd be talking to somebody's face, talking back to them, and here we are walking around with mobile phones in our pockets and being able to do that.
Yes. Now, that's become a reality. Why? Because somebody thought of it, right? So if we look back through our history, we can see that time and time again, things that people would thought were impossible have become a reality. But someone thought of it.
Yeah, that's right, in the first place. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Someone made the intention.
Yeah.
Which shows, therefore, that anything that we can imagine can become a reality.
It's fascinating stuff, isn't it?
Now, going back again, particularly from the 60s movement, there was a vision there. People wanting a planet based on the principles of love and peace.
Yes, and now this is starting
and more people are choosing
to follow that path.
Now, my understanding is this: when we get a certain percentage of the human population, and that percentage is called critical mass, it will shift this reality. It will become that reality because we're creating it anyway. But when we get that certain percentage of people that are actually choosing to walk that pathway, it's not enough about just hoping it, it's becoming it.
Yes.
It's like having our vision for what we would choose this reality to be, and then actually living it.
Yes.
Observing what's being said by the media and their version of the world, but not buying into it.
Yeah.
Holding our vision, but becoming our vision. In other words, walking the talk. And in that way, we affect and bring about the change, which is already accelerating. And this is my understanding of what the 2012 prophecies are relating to.
So around that time or thereafter, that's when the critical mass changes will be made.
Because the Mayans and the Hopi Indians, they've always maintained this connection with spirit. Native Americans, as you know, have got a very sacred, intimate relationship with the earth. The earth is a living being in its own right. Most of the tribal cultures have always believed that we should be the caretakers of the earth, whereas man in the West hasn't done a very good job on that. But we're intrinsically linked with the earth. And one of the things that I put an incredible stress on in my workshops is about keeping that connection with nature. It's really important to keep maintaining our connection with nature because we're part of nature.
Absolutely.
But as we keep that connection with nature, we're also keeping ourselves in alignment with the consciousness of the earth that will support us as well as us supporting it. And the earth is a part of this process of shift as well. The earth is undergoing a major shift in its own evolution. This is the understanding that many of the tribal cultures have. You see, the version of history that we've been presented in the West, unfortunately, has been doctored.
And history is what people write down at the time, isn't it?
Exactly.
Or oftentimes a long time afterwards.
Yeah.
So it's a perception rather than fact.
There is a tremendous amount of evidence that shows a lot of information has either been deliberately kept hidden or records destroyed. The thing is, if you look at tribal cultures, and irrespective of the fact that these cultures were, you know, not even connected with each other, they were in different parts of the continent, there is a common theme running through their understandings about our true history and our true heritage.
Yes.
And part of that is that we were meant to be the caretakers of the earth, and there would be a time when we would assist in a shift or an elevation, or what some people call an ascension, whereby we've been existing in the frequency that's known as the third dimension, but we will be able to shift up into a higher frequency, higher dimensions. The concept of there being many other dimensions of existence is now understood by quantum scientists. But if you want, when I was first introduced to the Spiritualist church, they would talk about these different planes.
Yes.
They use the term planes
yes,
of existence.
They do, yeah.
Scientists use the term different dimensions. But even if you want to look in the Bible, there's a reference to God's house of many mansions.
Yes.
So when we talk about spirit or the spirit world, it's not one place. It's a realm of infinite dimensions of reality that all coexist and actually all run in the now, in the here and now. We exist in the third dimension, but there are many other dimensions that coexist with this dimension, and the realm of our spiritual loved ones or our guides operate in a different dimensional frequency, a higher vibration, if you like. But what is happening is that as more people are awakening spiritually, that speeds up your vibration.
Okay, and as we all know, we're just a collection of vibrating molecules.
Exactly. And as more and more people start raising their vibration, we're going to be raising the vibration and shifting out of what we call the third dimension. Some people say we might be moving fourth, fifth. But what I always say to people is this. Listen to all the stories about 2012, because you've got the doom and gloom mongers, right? Which reality would you choose of all the different versions? Would you choose a reality where we actually really fully come into our own power and become the true co-creators with the divine, creating a world that is based on spiritual principles, love, peace, honouring each other, honouring all living things, and make that choice.
And that is the wonderful thing, isn't it? The fact that we do have this choice, and it is up to us now to make this decision.
Very much so, up to us. Because in each moment of each moment, we are making choices. And those choices manifest.
Yes.
And it's like, you know, I touched on it earlier about conspiracy theories. I know there are many conspiracies. But if you only focus on that, it becomes your reality. And if you're not careful, you see conspiracy around every single corner. So it's again about being very discerning about what you choose to buy into and what you choose to align with. So I'm very, very, I've been for years into the whole crop circle phenomena. And that, again, is a controversial subject.
Yes, and one that maybe you would join us on another show and we can discuss.
Absolutely. And what I would say to people, if you want to find out about crop circles, go and see them for yourself, first and foremost. Have your own personal experience.
Yes.
Because you're going to meet people that give you 101 different versions what the crop circles are. And you've got the guys walking around there with folders.
Yes.
All about dark and dire secret projects and convinced that they're being chased by, you know, or being watched by, you know, covert, you know, military people. Or, I mean, this one guy claims that he's, you know, being monitored by black helicopters and individuals in, you know, watching him. And one day I said to him, because when he first introduced himself to me, he told me he worked with angels.
Right.
And one day I said to him, you know, I never hear you talking about your work with angels. All I hear you is talking about all these dark, dire projects, right? And he goes, but I just want to know what the truth is. And I said, well, the truth is, all these realities exist. We live in a multi-dimensional universe. All realities exist. Whatever you can imagine exists, right? But the question is, which one do you choose to align with? Which one do you want to make your reality? Because by choosing to view this stuff in the way you are and putting your whole focus on it, it's becoming your reality.
Yes. Yeah.
That's why you really are convinced that, you know, you're being watched and monitored and everything like that. I said, I've known about this stuff for years, but I don't put my energy into it. I choose to put my energy into those things that will empower people, giving them tools that will empower themselves, or giving them an awareness that there's incredibly amazing people on the planet doing amazing, incredible work. The light workers, the star children.
Yes. Well, Nick, it's been absolutely fascinating. Goodness me, amazing. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
For anybody that's interested in actually purchasing Nick's book here, or Nick's CDs, they can be bought from Nick's website, www.nickashron.com. That's both the books and the CDs from there. We will also be putting some information on our website, www.thelightandenergychannel.tv, with information and links to Nick's website. So once again, thank you so much, Nick, for an absolutely amazing discussion.
Thank you.
Very
It was a great
interesting.
pleasure, a great honour.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Enlighten Energy from me, Claire Wiles. Thank you and goodbye.